Hello, this is Mr. Mayer, and this video is addressed to U.S. History 1 students at Chatham High School. You may have already noticed that this history course is different than what you've come to expect. We didn't hand you a textbook on the first day of school, and we don't expect you to memorize a long list of names, dates, and definitions, if only to prove that you've learned history by repeating them on a test. We would rather you learn how to do history, to exercise the historical analysis, content understanding, critical thinking, and effective communication necessary to create and share your own understanding of U.S. history. For those of you who normally like history, we think that you'll like this course more, because you'll be able to dig more deeply into the most significant events of this country's history. And if you normally don't like history, you may like this course because it's a lot less superficial, it's more realistic. In either case, by developing these skills, you will be able to be more successful in whatever path of life you choose. In order to do this, we've replaced the textbook with a wide variety of secondary sources, and included more primary sources in the curriculum to allow you to use the content to exercise the skills of an historian. We've also designed an authentic assessment portfolio, which you will use to track your development and reflect upon what you do poorly and what you do well. Most importantly, to identify the steps that you can take in order to improve. This video will describe how you will create your portfolio, what's included in it, and how it's graded. As individual teachers configure the portfolio into their classes, there may be some slight differences, so make sure you read your directions very closely and don't hesitate to ask your teacher any questions you might have. To begin with, let's look at the 4 skills: historical analysis, content understanding, information fluency, and proving a thesis through effective communication. We took those 4 skills and broke them down into 9 sub-skills to make them easier to exercise and develop. We then created a rubric for each, outlining the different levels of performance for each skill. Throughout the first semester, you will make one portfolio entry for each of these 9 skills. Each entry will consist of a written reflection, a grade you give yourself based on the rubric, and evidence upon which you base that reflection. Let's look at each of these 3 pieces individually to understand them more clearly. We'll look at the work evidence first, because it's the basis of all portfolio entries. As in any history course, your teachers will lead you through standard lessons, assignments, and projects, which are part of your normal marking period grades. Any of these assignments may also qualify as work examples for your portfolio. What's different, however, is that you will not simply move on to the next assignment without reflecting on your work. The goal here is to develop your thinking and learning skills, to improve your performance. Before the end of the first semester, you will add one example of your work as a portfolio entry for each of the 9 categories. Along with each example of your work, you will submit a rubric and a reflection in which you analyze your own strengths and weaknesses. The reflection is a 300 to 400 word essay in which you analyze your work. Don't think you're writing a 3x5 essay. What counts most here is honesty, specific examples, and a focused direction for improvement. What are your strengths? Can you think of ways in which you can capitalize on your talents and exploit them more effectively? What are your weaknesses? What did you miss, and why did you miss it? Most importantly, what will you do in the future to improve your skills? The reflection must include specific references to the work evidence to prove your points. You need to show exactly what you're writing about. Lastly, the rubric grade is based on the rubrics embedded in the curriculum itself. You will use the rubrics as a guide to assign a grade to your work evidence based in the portfolio entry. The grading scale consists of just 4 grades ranging 1 through 4. If you think your work is in severe need of improvement, then you would give it a 1. If it's slightly below average, a 2, average or slightly above, a 3, and if you're well above average, you'd give it a 4. Now you might be concerned about how your teachers are going to grade the authentic assessment portfolio. And the grading of the portfolio entries is simple and straightforward. When reading the reflections and examining the work evidence, teachers will ask themselves, is this reflection an honest appraisal of the work? Are there specific references to the student's work in the skills rubric? Does the reflection include specific actions the student will take to improve? Teachers will use the same 4-point scale to grade the reflections as you use to grade the work evidence. By the end of the first semester, your portfolio will consist of 9 entries, one for each of the 9 skills listed in the curriculum. Each will have your own rubric grade and your teacher's grade on your reflection. Remember that these grades are all measured on the same simple 4-point scale. As the second semester begins, you will use the 9 portfolio entries you collected in the first semester to identify the 4 skills in which you have the most room for improvement. In which areas are you the weakest? You will then submit a second round of portfolio entries for these 4 skills by the end of April. In this second reflection, you can refer to the steps for improvement you outlined in the first. How have you improved? What steps for improvement were successful? And what areas of focus still remain for you? Just like the first semester, you will assign a grade to your work using the rubric, and teachers will again grade your reflections. Finally, by the end of May, you will complete your portfolio with a comprehensive reflection of your performance. This is the final product which you have been working towards all year. As such, it entails more detailed reflection than the others. As before, you will provide work evidence. However, you are now demonstrating how you have improved throughout the year, and should therefore include the very best evidence of your performance. In what areas did you have the most improvement or most growth? What actions or strategies were most effective when improving your performance? What challenges still remain for you? Your teacher will then grade your overall performance in each of the 9 skills, using the curriculum rubric as a guide. These grades will use the same 4-point scale as before. Your final authentic assessment grade is calculated by adding up the total points for all the entries. This includes your first and second semester portfolio entries, your teacher's grades on all the reflections, and the teacher's grade for your final performance in each skill. Adding up all these grades, there's a total of 140 points available for the authentic assessment portfolio. Your grade will be calculated by dividing the total number of grades you received by 140. We do understand that this is new to you, but we're committed to helping you succeed in any way you can. Please do not hesitate to discuss any questions you have with your teachers. Good luck.